Okay, everybody, what's up? It's time for Fairy Tale 4.
Was it
This,
really 444?
yeah,
I can't remember the chapter name or chapter number. I just remember what happened in the chapter.
yeah, it's actually 444. Um,
All right. Well,
that
anyway,
fucking
so
ending.
save that for last
hmm
because we want to make sure we cover everything else. Because there's going to be definitely almost guaranteed that there's going to be some level of rambling with that final part.
Yeah, let's start with the fact that Lucy was showing her butt, and some guy in the bottom right corner of that panel was looking straight at it with his eyes popped out. It was brilliant.
Was it Lucy? I thought it was Urza.
No, it was Lucy.
Uh, all the ass. It was so much ass and tit. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, and we also find out that Brandish's magic is to make things grow and to make things shrink.
Mm,
I mean, could there have been a bigger innuendo?
I know, right? I
Like
was
she's
just
a
about to say.
I'm like, really? She was already like a walking sex symbol. Now you have to give her magic that's basically a sexual innuendo.
hmm
I mean, for one thing, the sexual innuendo. First of all, implies to the fact that, oh, you're referring to haha, she's a woman, a very attractive woman, so she makes a guy's penis grow. But it also makes you think, what could those applicate? How another thing that's interesting is how we saw how it was able to have such a large area of effect that she could shrink an entire island
hmm
down to such a small size. But how precise in smaller portions can it be? Because I mean, for all you know, she could use that on her. She could have used it on herself to give her bigger boobs
Right.
and bigger curves because she's shrunk. She grew them using her magic.
hmm
For all we know.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have another comedy scene later where she gives Wendy's an actual actual cups.
Oh my gosh.
So for one brief moment, we'll get to see what Wendy would look like with actual cleavage.
Oh no. Don't even start with because you know Mashima will do it. But
He will. He will. He will. But speaking of tits, Angel was the spy,
yeah.
which makes no sense. Because I'm like, okay, what the? How did she infiltrate? Like, all these important details that we're not going to find out because she's not important enough.
right.
So, and since she's, but yeah, so of course she was wearing a very revealing bathing suit type thing, if you
hmm
can even call it a bathing suit.
Right.
So and basically, we find out from her that yes, Makarov, they're going to Makarov, which is awesome.
hmm
But then we find out that Makarov's been spending his year playing cards, waiting for the Emperor to return to make negotiations.
right.
So he's not in trouble whatsoever. Or should we say, he hasn't been in trouble, but now he is.
Yeah. Until now.
And that's pretty much. I mean, the only other thing is what the hell did she? So now that we know what Brandish's magic is, does that mean that she shrunk Marin down?
Hmm. I guess so.
And if that's the case, is he gonna like appear later on? But like, and they're gonna be like, wait a minute, I thought he. Well, I mean, I don't think Urza thinks he's dead now that since she was the one who figured out her magic, Brandish's magic. I'm presuming she already knows that the guy that Marin's alive. So it
Probably.
wouldn't be. So I don't expect her to be. If she sees him alive, I don't expect her to be surprised at all.
hmm
So with that in mind, we get to the ending where the Emperor Spriggan has finally returned. Who he's been away for an entire year, and we come to find out that the Emperor of this militaristic country, or sort of empire, is none other than the Black Wizard himself, Zareth.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, since when has he been the Emperor? Like, since when? And
Right.
first of all, second of all, do they even know that he's the Black Wizard Zareth, or they just think he's a strong dude that never ages?
Yeah, I mean, he was on Tenro for God knows how long until maybe this has been a 7-year thing. I mean, what the hell?
Well, now that I think about it, when they were detailing the whole thing about whatchamacallit, about when they tried to invade, they said wasn't it like 6 years ago or 7 years ago or something they were talking about?
I believe so, maybe.
And if that's the case, were they referring to? Does that mean they attacked during the time skip, the first time skip?
Probably.
So if that's the case, then does that mean Zareth became the emperor after he left Tenero, and then he tried to get Mavis back, which for whatever reason, and then that's why they attacked, or Alvarez attacked?
Hmm. I mean, that's what I'm assuming. Um,
So if that's
yeah.
the case, then that means that he hasn't been emperor too long.
Right.
So, but why would he lie to them and say, why do they call him Emperor Spriggan? Like, where the hell did this name, the Spriggan thing, come up? Is
Who
that like,
knows?
but this can only mean, there are only two things that this could, him being the Emperor of Alvarez can only mean one of two things. One, this is the final arc of Fairy Tail.
Hmm.
Two, this is the second to last arc of Fairy Tail.
Right.
Why would I say that? Because there's this whole theory ever since the big reveal that Natsu is the brother of Zareth. There's this big theory going around saying that Natsu is going to talk no jutsu Zareth, and he's going to become good,
Yeah.
and that he is going to help Fairy Tail fight Acnologia.
Right. Yeah.
So that's which is going to be kind of weird because I mean, like obviously, it's just going to be this, which just really this whole thing can be very confusing because if obviously they're not like, how are they going to defeat? I mean, and how would they defeat even to go about defeating Zareth because he's supposed to be immortal.
Mhm.
So it's like okay, and obviously they're going to defeat the Spriggan 12 at some point,
Right.
but or most of them at least, I would think. But if so what are they going to? But how could there be a final arc revolving around just fighting Acnologia? Because I mean, at that point, if that's the case, not only will they have Natsu, who most likely, by the end of this, unless for some reason Zareth doesn't play a part in the ending of this arc, that which I mean, I mean for very long. I mean, unless that happens, which it's not,
Mhm.
by the end of this arc, whether it's the final one or not, we're gonna get the whole Natsu's revealed to everyone as being END. He's gonna have his whole, oh, he turns into a demon, and then he has to try and take, the whole, oh, I'm a beast, but I'm not a beast, and I'm gonna, I have my new personality, my new life that's going to win over the demon, and then he's gonna unlock this new demon form as his final power up. So it's like that whole thing is going to happen by the end of this arc. It's pretty much guaranteed at this point, since Zareth is the Emperor.
Right.
And this is also already pretty much all but confirmed that it's going to be, this is going to be quite easily the longest arc yet.
Hmm.
No joke. Because I mean, there's just so much stuff that's gonna have to happen.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you have the various groups going. You know, you have the two groups trying to get to Alvarez, and we also have the they have to somehow manage to get to Makarov in the capital. They have to try and defeat the Spriggan 12. There's going to be more information revealed about certain things. One of which is including what the hell is the purpose of Lumen History, and or should I say Lumen Histoire, if we go by the English dub translation or saying the way they say it in the English dub, Lumen Histoire.
That's how it's supposed to be said because it's French. Yeah.
Well, screw it. Screw them. We're America. America.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot of possible implications and possibilities just because Zeref is the emperor of Alvarez. Now, whether or not if Acnologia shows up in this arc, who knows? I mean, I would probably. I mean, honestly, you know, we have this major threat that is seemingly impossible to overcome. We have Zeref, the emperor of this kingdom that is supposedly unconquerable. All we're missing is Acnologia. I mean, and in terms of Acnologia, I don't see him being the final arc being just an arc about Acnologia. Because it's like, what is he gonna? He doesn't work well with others, so he's not gonna have any henchmen for them to defeat. Not for the other Fairy Tail members to defeat. So what the hell is he gonna do? So I mean, I don't see like the other characters trying to fight Acnologia, spending chapters trying to defeat Acnologia, only to get defeated, and then Natsu shows up and he's like, "Oh, now it's my turn." Like, what is
Right.
So it'd be kind of really difficult to make an entire arc like that, which is why I feel like Zeref's most likely is going to be the final arc, but also at the same time, there's that possibility that Zeref won't be defeated or talk no jutsu by the end of the arc, and that he will team up with Acnologia.
Yeah, that's true.
For the final arc. But again, even with Zeref and Acnologia, you still have to have that, the other Fairy Tail members have to fight something while the main fight's going on. So, now despite the fact that, was it 2 chapters ago at the end when Natsu and Gray looked like terrified of the sheer magical power or the amount of magical power that Brandish had, I don't see how her ability how she's gonna, it was like, oh my gosh, she's super dangerous, but she can grow and shrink things. I mean, the only thing that would be really, yeah, sure, she can shrink you down to what? We don't even know what her minimum, like how small she can shrink something. For all we know, it could just be, the size of an ant or something. Well, does that mean that, because we don't know exactly how it works, for all we know, by the next time they fight her, they'll already have a counter to it, so they'll be able to not get affected by it or something, so that she can't make them, so that way she can't shrink them to a small size, like the size of an ant, and then for her to just step on them, and then that'd be it, which would be really stupid. So that's why I don't think feel that her I mean, I'm sure you'll have honestly, I think there's a possibility that Hiro Mashima might be setting up a scene that may be in an attempt to play homage to the fighting candy scene of Dragon Ball Z. Because I mean, Natsu gets, or one of the characters gets shrunk down to a small size, but their magic is still just as strong, so they end up beating the crap out of her as this tiny being. So she then, for some reason I feel like that might be he might have just set that up.
Hmm. I mean, her ability can be so OP if she uses it right. Like, you can go like into a rocky area and take like really small pebbles and then just toss them while simultaneously turning them into giant boulders. Like,
Yeah, but I mean,
wow.
the only thing but honestly, the whole thing about growing and shrinking things, honestly, I would have to actually see it in a serious fight to really
Hmm.
feel out whether or not it's actually good in combat. Like that's one, like, we see that all the time in, like, for instance, for an example, One Piece and the Devil Fruits. It's like, okay, you got a Devil Fruit, you got an ability, but is it useful in battle?
Hmm.
So I'm that's why I want to see, is her magic as useful as we think it is in battle?
Hmm.
And if so, what kind of fairy tale friendship BS are they gonna pull off to beat her?
Yeah.
Because if it's as useful in battle as we think it is, she is way too OP.
Yeah, I mean, you heard my rant last week about like they made them too strong, the power levels are too much because they're gonna make more bullshit to beat her. I'm like, that was my
That's
rant for last week's
Yeah, I
Fairy Tale
know.
chapter. I'm like,
That's
yeah,
why I kind of feel like it's possible that her ability, even though she has a lot of magical power, won't be as useful as we think it is.
probably not.
So, but like we said 2 weeks ago, it's too early in the arc for them to be beating any of these Spriggan 12.
Hmm.
So that's why she got the upper hand on them. But the next time they encounter her for a fight, she's going to be facing whoever her opponent of the arc is going to be, whether it be Lucy, Wendy, Urza, who the hell knows.
Hmm.
I mean, I'd first have to see the other Spriggan 12 before we could actually start making prediction matchups.
Right.
I mean, especially since one of the now the only other one we know of is God Serena, who is believed to be Yuri Dreyer.
Yeah. If that's really Yuri, that's fucking crazy.
Loxus, Loxus, Loxus will be his opponent for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. That would be
Which
crazy
would be
though.
possibly Loxus plus Makarov,
Hmm.
which would be an even more interesting fight to see
Yeah.
Loxus and Makarov fight together to fight Yuri Dreyer, who, if my fairy tale timeline is correct, would be Makarov's father.
I believe so.
Which would be kind of odd because you'd think that Makarov would have mentioned that his father was the most powerful wizard in all Fiore.
Right.
But then again, I guess they really actually wanted it, unless, I mean, the only other explanation is that he would just want to leave it, doesn't want to brag about it, or he doesn't really want to,
Were there daddy issues?
maybe possibly data issues, or as just write it off as, oh, he hadn't planned that at the time,
Right.
because it was only, it's, what was it? Oh, what was it? It's been, what, a year since he started Fairy Tail Zero?
About, yeah.
So it's kind of, we should be expecting a new Fairy Tail Zero chapter
Pretty soon, yeah. That's true.
pretty soon. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next, because they, from here on out, will be honestly, based on what's happened in so far, we've pretty much covered a lot of the pre fairy tale. Like, the next steps would be the founding of Fairy Tale and whatever the hell happens to Mavis that turns her into Lumen Histoire.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely going to be interesting to see from that for Fairy Tale Zero. but also to see how those events will affect the current story in the main manga.
Right.
But I just hope we don't get, like when they match up the characters against match up Fairy Tail people against the Spriggan 12, that they're not like super duper obvious. Oh, this person, like for instance, friggin' there are certain ones that it's like, really? Of course this person's gonna try and fight Natsu. Or of course, this person's gonna try and face Gray, or of course this person's gonna face, yeah, and so on and so forth. It's like, for instance, in the Tenro Island, it's like, of course, the Fire God Slayer was gonna try and take on Natsu, because fire beats fire.
Right.
Like, how many times has Natsu faced off against an opponent that uses fire magic?
Too many.
Too many. So it's like, really, I hope there's nobody with fire magic in the Spriggan 12, because then they just be automatically, oh, they're facing Natsu.
Yeah.
So it's like, really? And the same goes for Gray. I don't want to see anybody with ice-related powers either.
Right.
For the Spriggan 12, I want them all to have magic I have not seen before.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things proceed from here. And so, but this chapter I thought was a pretty good chapter, especially with that ending.
Yeah. Especially really again the detail and the artwork in that last in the background in that last page was really good. So.
But now I leave everyone off with this last final question. With all of this stuff that's happening, when the fuck is Guild Arts gonna show up? Because yes, Guild Arts has been, shown at cases that like nomadic character, but it's like, okay, he's obviously he's not going to end the series without seeing him again, and he's probably going to be heavily involved in the final arc, whatever. And I would think he would show up in this arc.
I would hope so.
So, what's gonna happen? Is he just gonna randomly show up in the nick of time? Maybe friggin' Guild Arts will take on like one of the other Spriggan 12, which honestly is probably necessary, because yes, as far as we know, Brandish, his power could go either way, with whether or not it'll actually be required of one of the top tier, like top, meaning Natsu or Urza, to actually take her on, to actually beat her. Because for all we know, Lucy might be able to beat her, or Gray, or maybe not Gray, but like one of the other, like maybe Elfman or something. Who knows? Mest, maybe even Mest. Who knows?
Mira, etc.
Because it's the top. Because at this point, the top 3 most powerful main Fairy Tail members are Natsu, Gray, and Urza. Yes, Loxus is up there, but he's not seen as often. So, plus, like I said, either he by himself or he and Makarov are going to be facing off against God Serena, especially if he is actually Yuri Dreyer.
Right.
So, so I hope next week's chapter will provide us with plenty more view of the rest, or should I say, a view of the rest of the Spriggan 12, as well as most likely a very interesting conversation between Makarov and Zareth.
Yeah, definitely.
So, hope to see you all. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and hope to see you guys next week.